is of such magnitude that I find my IT director standing outside my office and seeking funds on the grounds of obsolescence. He treats hardware that is just a year old with disdainful contempt. Software is never old with him. It is always new stuff in testing. While I can well imagine Mr. Ayaz Bidwa Memorial Lecture Day of 1990, the memorial lecture of 10 years hence will be delivered so completely differently. On multimedia, maybe with 3D conferencing, who knows, the lecture might be virtual, delivered through a satellite hookup from a city very distant from Bangalore. This is the pace of change that we would all need to adapt to. How does one keep pace with this change? How do you keep the finger on the pulse? IT comes to the rescue yet again. Sales today can be measured in great detail and increasingly in real time. Along with this, the sheer ability to crunch numbers allows the generating of far more meaningful measures of buying and consumer behavior. Market researchers shall have to develop skills that are not limited to establishing representative samples and hypothesis testing, but lead to techniques that sustain and monitor a lasting consumer dialogue. And as we get more information on consumers, consumption patterns and buying behavior, the focus will be on establishing what trends are and answering why they are. So change will be handled by strengthening knowledge base around consumers, who they are, why do they buy, or why not. There will be a need to not just measure consumption as a function of sales offtake and demographics. The focus shall shift to mapping occasions of consumption, patterns of purchase behavior, and the environment of purchase and consumption. This type of knowledge handling shall require skill sets that are learning based, and organizational structures shall have to adapt to foster such skills. These are not ivory tower skills. To be able to make the proper connect, you would need to go to the consumer and the marketplace again and again. See, feel and understand how the consumer is interacting with the brand. Advertising agency personnel do not take this trip enough. Some years back, we saw agencies specializing by product and industry. Financial services advertising being a good example. This will change. In the years to come, agencies shall be demarcated in terms of target group specialization. Those that will communicate well with the youth or technically savvy or new age entrepreneurs. In India, this kind of reaching out and touching and experiencing the consumer takes yet another dimension. The vast and vastly different rural market. Whichever way you look at it, there is a third to 50% of our consumers residing in rural markets. This is the dark continent waiting to be explored. For the truly committed, the treasures of such exploration will be huge, and the disposable incomes will well and truly in these rural markets. The challenge in Indian context would be to build consumer and communication empathy at something like 5 discrete target groupings, from the truly Western to the essentially rural. Allow me to present one such menu of soft drinks ads to illustrate my point.
शांत है ना?
वाला डेकोरेशन क्या दुम है? कोई देखेगा तो कहेगा दिस इज घोड़ी और वॉच।
लीजिए कार्ड हमारी शादी का। जोर का झटका धीरे से लगे। हाँ।
The demise of the USP. In such a context, brands will be defined less by their attributes and more by their attitudes and lifestyles of the associated target groups. There will be a shift from product performance to the entire experience surrounding the brand. Such measures shall not only serve to place a disproportionately high premium on deepening the brand connect with the consumer. This shall take several forms. At one end of the spectrum will be the mass appeal, universal, iconic, almost cult status brand. The flip side of this would be the highly niched brand that no one else other than the narrow target group knows or even needs to know about. This brand as badge imagery shall develop as consumers see their values reflected in brands they adopt and in turn embrace the values that the brand espouses. Communities shall have to be addressed in discrete communication bites. This and the universal connectivity the web provides would result in some consumers having much more access to information than that provided traditionally by advertising. The era of brands largely developed on successful advertising platforms may in fact give way to other multi-dimensional and multimedia approaches. Information-rich advertising on the web, database-oriented direct marketing, sponsorship-promoted image buildings are all good examples. Such initiatives shall minimize the wasted reach that typifies mass media-led advertising. I believe conventional media and the need to connect with the consumer through superior copies or commercials will still play a major role in India. The next series of ads I'd like to show you are all classics from iconic brands. They are rich in content and weave in a strong community feel. Most of us believers grew up on the star testimonials for Lux. Notice the change of the sheer bathing experience. And Nescafe has moved from coffee flavor to talking lifestyle more discreetly. Communication shall have to start to chart the course of attitudinal changes that shall characterize the new millennium. I have broadly classified these into 5 areas. Attitude towards spending. As societies become more consumerist, the gap between aspiration, mindset, and real lifestyle shall narrow. The income productive spiral will presage an increase in the frequency of consumption. There will be a willingness to spend on more items than the traditional shopping basket, and more of these will be consumed. This drill down the income level will be disproportionately increase the significance of value for money, VFM proposition, in the marketing mix. Effectively communicating VFM will be a winning strategy. Changing attitudes towards spending will be important. Attitude towards the consumption. The VFM rationale shall result in a less guilt-ridden attitude towards consumption of goods and services. This will explode the market for premiums built on superior branding, designer labels, and brand as badge, iconic symbolism. The so-called luxury and indulgence sector shall benefit in strange dichotomy with the VFM movement. Let us consider a typically middle-class holiday dream. A holiday at a hill station in India, say Dalhousie, ex-Delhi, costs about rupees 18,000. A good travel agent can take you to Singapore via Bangkok for rupees 21,000. Now the value for money comes shining through, and out goes the guilt about blowing up money on a foreign holiday. Adroit communication will exploit such attitudinal shifts towards consumption. Attitude to social restraint. Imagine the Ascot a century ago. The place would be rife with all kinds of social and class distinctions. One would have needed a horse carriage and livery and maybe an attendant footman to gain entrance. These trappings in a different form are still there. However, far more accessible to general populace. A Ray-Ban shall get you there, an Apple Singh made it to Lords after all. External branded symbols shall compensate for a lack of persona, and thus would be gained social ingress. These badges shall serve to move up the modernity or health scale. Remember your precious Levi's that your kind uncle brought 3 years back. The badge still exists, only it is a far more easily available today. The brands that therefore serve as tickets to social graces and acceptance will have value at a healthy premium, a clear manifestation of their attitude towards social restraint. Attitude towards relationships. As class constraints crumble, traditional relationships shall take on different hue. The male-female equation, marriage, parent and child, and so on. 10 years ago, it was the era of Mahabharata and Ramayans on the box. Look at today's TV soaps, boldly taking relationships to realms that never broached before. Communication will have to be ahead of the curve in catching this shift. However, this will have to be done with unusual empathy. We are already seeing some of this in recent advertising. These ads present men so completely differently, unimaginable, say, a decade ago.
सारे कपड़े मुझसे धुलवाएगी बाबू कुछ पाने के लिए कुछ धोना भी पड़ता है
Attitude towards community. A series of relationships is what defines community. As relationships undergo fundamental change, communities shall be restructured, not anymore around geography, profession, race, or sex. Their commonalities will be built around means of communication, shopping place, preferences, entertainment modes, leisure time activities, etc. Tribalism will be in, but with a difference. The boundaries will be fluid, constantly redefining, but nevertheless, there will be boundaries and a need to bind. Democracy as a social mode will be far more and prevalent. However, each community group will have latitude to do their own thing. The tolerance for diversity will be infinite, and therefore, so would the scope for segmentation. The ads I'm going to show you next have a strong community feel. This is the kind of focused segmentation that would need to be developed as communities edge along brand preferences. As communications tailor around volcanic attitudinal shifts, the genre and the language of expression shall gain critical importance. Subtle cultural issues manifest. You could get this completely wrong or hugely right. A good illustration of this is in Nothing Official About It. The Pepsi campaign of 1996 Cricket World Cup. Unable to own the property through a sponsorship which went to our competitor, Pepsi translated adversity into opportunity. Yes, this was smart thinking, all right. But what sets the campaign apart is the subtle irreverence shown to authority figures, the men in white, or the umpire, or indeed the so-called official ringer.
Ladies and gentlemen, restraint. Have to drink the official drink. Now. Pepsi. Nothing official about it.
Nothing official about it. Pepsi. Nothing official about it.
The trend that was then set has been progressed brilliantly by others, by MTV, by other brands such as Fevicol, by Shah Rukh in his latest film, Phir Bhi Dil Hai Hindustani. This is the challenge of the Indian idiom. Noodles that look like curry, jeans that are tailored, the wonderfully erudite yet brilliantly Indian cricket commentary of a Harsh Bhogle. The acceptance of Jeffrey Backer or Richard Branson with their very British pedigree. The fact that Lacoste are going to put their legendary croc on the very Indian kurta. And Pepsi commercials, where Sachin does not play cricket.